Ukraine is the new Troy, and the horse is already inside. In my previous video on why myths still matter, I explained how myths, ancient myths, aren't just stories from the past, they are blueprints for understanding the present. And today, I want to explore a myth that's unfolding right before our eyes, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And to me, Ukraine clearly echoes the myth of Troy. In the original tale, Paris takes Helen from Menelaus, triggering a massive war. In our world, Russia claims Ukraine was stolen by the West, by NATO, so to speak. To Putin, that's the same kind of insult Paris dealt with to the Greeks. And just like Agamemnon, the Greek king, launched 1,000 ships to reclaim Helen, Putin launched a full-scale invasion to take back Ukraine. But here's the thing. Was Ukraine really taken, or did it choose to stand with the West? This question is very important because that sort of determines the position of the actors in the play, in the myth. So that question matters because the answer shapes how we see the war and what kind of myth we're actually living in. And the myth, it repeats itself. So Paris steals Helen, just like Ukraine was stolen by the West as claimed by Russia. Agamemnon leads Greeks, and Putin leads the Russian forces from the Russian Federation, which is also a form of coalition, just like what the Greeks had at the time. The myth becomes a metaphor. So, honor, insult, conquest, restoration, all of these things are included in the justification of this war. So, this is the irony that the Greeks, when they invaded, they thought they were restoring order within Troy, and so does Russia. Russia also thinks that they are restoring order in Ukraine, but they are doing actually the very opposite. So, there's been many references and other historical events like the Cold War, like Crimea, etc., that could sort of point to the entire Troy mythos, the Hellene moments that happened. Now, if you take a look at King Priam in the Troy, Zelenskyy is sort of identical to the character of King Priam because he's Priam was a moral but a tragic leader of a besieged culture, and Zelensky is a sort of modern echo of of the king under siege, a symbolic defender. He's not a one-to-one match, of course, but spiritually, he's similar. The leadership in the face of doom is what matters here. Instead of getting a ride and flying away while Kiev was besieged, he chose to stay. He can also be viewed as the father figure who is trying to protect his house, his family. And if we were to take a look at the volunteers in Ukraine, the civilians and the soldiers, they can be viewed as the Hector, the son of Priam. They are Ukraine's fallen heroes. They are Hector. They are the sons defending the gates of the city of Troy. And if Troy is the heart, what is being defended is not just territory, it's its identity, the Ukrainian identity. Now, I mentioned that the Trojan horse is already inside. This kind of points to the entire idea that the Greeks, just like the Russians, cannot conquer by force. They need to use deception, just like the Trojan horse. And today's horse is Russian misinformation, Russian propaganda, the cyber warfare, internal sabotage. All of these things play a key role in Russia's strategic and tactical victory on the battlefield. The horse, in my opinion, the horse is basically an idea. It's a narrative. It's not a thing, but it's a belief. that gets in, that creeps in through the sabotage and the propaganda. So the horse as a symbol is very beautiful and distracting, falsely comforting. But this disinformation that Russia launches, it affects the institutions, the leaders, the media, the citizens. And on top of that, there's this sort of Western complacency uh, where the West is making the same mistake as Trojans, pulling in the horse by letting the Russian propaganda fester in the Western media. And the real battle is not the one that's taking place physically. It's the battle of the mind that determines the victory in the war. Troy fell from within. It's the pride and the hubris and the infighting, the delay that caused their defeat. By letting the horse inside, they defeated themselves because their walls were were unconquered as of yet. And the only weakness that Troy, the city, and the citizens had is on the inside. It was internal, not external. And Ukraine's real danger is basically erosion of unity, erosion of democracy, because as the cities are being bombed, um, there's a real difficulty for Ukrainians to organize sort of gatherings, to organize people to meet up and basically conduct democracy, organize elections, and so on. It's sort of impossible for them to do that because they're constantly under the threat of being killed by rockets and bombs. So this is actually where Ukraine has the upper hand because because the war puts pressure on elections, freedoms, and morale. There's a sort of unity amongst the Ukrainian people and even the foreigners who fight alongside Ukraine. It basically means that Ukraine is in favor of the gods, so to speak. Just like Achilles was both blessed but cursed by the gods at the same time. He was blessed by having the ability to conquer the city of Troy, and his name would be remembered for thousands of years. But in exchange, he would die during that conquest. So the real enemy that Ukraine faces on the inside is the internal corruption, it's the fatigue, the propaganda from within. The mythic parallel here could be seen in Cassandra, who warned Troy. Cassandra was telling the Trojans that the horse is sinister, that it's dangerous. In the myth, she wasn't an outsider. She was actually a Trojan, meaning in this case you could say she was actually Ukrainian. She saw the danger from within the walls and begged her people to listen. Today, Ukraine is our Cassandra. For years, also the Baltic states, for years, these countries warned, including mainly Ukraine, they warned the West about Russia's intentions through revolutions, speeches, intelligence. But what did we do? What did the West do? The West hesitated. The West appeased Russia. The West even let Russian influence, propaganda, and spies operate freely across the Western institutions. And just like in Troy, the warning wasn't heeded until the horse was already inside. So this is actually both the blessing and the curse of Cassandra, that she was able to tell the truth. She was able to see through the Greek deception. But the curse was that nobody would listen to her because everybody would think that she's crazy, or nobody would, because nobody would listen to her. So this shows that empires don't really fall when they are defeated, but more when they rot on the inside. So you can see that this mythos shows history does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. And we know the ending of Troy. We know that Troy loses in the end, But by knowing that, by knowing the myth, we can still change the trajectory of that path. This means that there needs to be an awareness, not fear. Myths are not fate, they are warnings. And we are not Trojans unless we ignore the signs. If the horse is already inside, it's important that he's cast out of Troy and burned. Otherwise, Troy will once more be conquered.